Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Africa 360. Today, we continue our focus on SADC, particularly how this regional organization fulfills its lofty mandate. That's after a recent summit in Lilongwe, Malawi, where a wide range of issues were discussed, including the appointment of a new top leadership for the Secretariat, as well as the discussion on the overall political situation in the region. Well, joining me now is none other than Ambassador Lindiwe Zulu, who is International Relations Advisor to South Africa's President Jacob Zuma. She also attended the recent summit in Lilongwe. But before we get right into our conversation, let's first hear what Dr. Thomas Solomao, the current outgoing SADC Executive Secretary, had to say when I asked him on our previous show about SADC's mandate and unifying values.
We came from the frontline states, and the only reason which brought member states together was, okay, let's fight against apartheid. That was the only reason. Let's help South Africa to liberate from the apartheid. And in 1994, that agenda was done.
Yeah.
So what next?
Indeed, what next, Ambassador Zulu? And again, thank you so much for joining us. The issue, I would imagine, is that one of the questions that I have to say, has the mindset changed of keeping South Africa out of SADC? Or is there still some distrust about South Africa's intentions?
I think the mindset has shifted very much. Shifting, I mean, from what Dr. Solomao had just said, what the mandate of SADC was before it became SADC. That was the liberation of South Africa. That was also not just the liberation of South Africa, but also the protection of the frontline states. Because if you recall, many of the frontline states were attacked many a times. There's been a shift in terms of the new mandate that SADC now has. The new mandate is about consolidating the political environment in our region, ensuring that this region in particular becomes a shining example in as far as development, in as far as human rights, in as far as all things that we fought for when we're in the liberation struggle. I think the fact that there is a mandate which SADC has given itself goes to show that there is unity of purpose in terms of where we need to take the region to.
And it's exactly that purpose, ma'am,
yeah,
that in the first instance an argument can be made that the purpose is really around securing a political elite who in the main are nationalist liberation movements who find themselves in power now. It doesn't appear that there is a movement towards broadening SADC to incorporate the people of the region and their interests.
Well, absolutely. Maybe let's start from the fact that most of these governments that are in place in SADC are governments that have been elected by the people. Yeah. And therefore they do have a mandate from the people to take the process forward. Because, I mean, if we were to reduce it to involvement of people at that level, you would say that then SADC must go and have a summit somewhere where everybody in the region comes to the agenda. The bottom line is that those governments that have been elected by the people are recognized by SADC so that they represent those people.
It's a big assumption that you're making, ma'am.
It's not an assumption.
It's an assumption, considering the fact that, in actual fact, in my view, a lot of those governments who you claim to have been elected and have a popular mandate, that is not commonly accepted. And here the issue of Zimbabwe comes to mind again.
Well, you're picking up on one particular country. We're looking at SADC as a whole. And by the way,
Angola is another example. The Democratic Republic of Congo is yet another example. No. Madagascar, which has been suspended from the Southern African Development Community, is also a thing. But let's go back to Zimbabwe as the first example.
No, let's speak on that. Why is Madagascar suspended? Why is Madagascar suspended?
I would argue that because it's a less dominant and powerful country, and therefore such punitive measures can be imposed on countries like Madagascar. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, where people like you worked hard and long to ensure the creation of a global political agreement and key aspects that had to be implemented. Suddenly, it appears that SADC is toothless in ensuring that indeed the will of the people and their mandate is heard.
I'm not sure where SADC is seen to be toothless when first and foremost the very implementation of the global political agreement was the mandate of SADC, because SADC itself as an institution recognized that there was a problem in Zimbabwe and recognized the fact that something needed to be done and put systems in place to make sure that something is being done.
On the one hand, you defend and provide us with a very convincing argument on why we should believe in SADC and its institutions around resolving conflict. But it's also amazing at a personal level. You have someone who has been personally slated and insulted by President Robert Mugabe, and then subsequently lauded with what can be best described as amorous praise. This must be a very confusing situation for you.
No, it's not a confusing situation for me at all, considering the fact that I've had experience in negotiations and facilitation. I was part of the process in Burundi. I was part of the process in the DRC. I was a bit part of the process in Cote d'Ivoire. So I've had a lot of experience, and I've had to come across and deal with such issues. I understood, and it must also be understood in the context that there was political contestation in Zimbabwe.
Are you angry?
And therefore,
are you angry?
No, I'm not angry.
Are you angry personally at the personal insults?
No.
From someone who we all respect, first of all.
I am not angry. I was taken aback, and I didn't expect that, first and foremost, especially from a head of state. But however, in the process, I also looked at issues and considered the fact that it was a very difficult situation for everyone, including themselves. The negotiations themselves were very difficult, not only for us as the facilitation team and the facilitator, but for all the three political parties. But I think what really made me feel more comfortable was the fact that we need to learn lessons from all facilitation processes. I have learned a lot of lessons in this particular one of Zimbabwe. And lastly, I think that the fact that President Robert Mugabe came out in the manner in which he did to say that certain things which were said shouldn't have been said, it gave me the comfort that African leaders, Africans themselves, can use African solutions for African problems.
African solutions for African problems. That is Ambassador Lindiwe Zulu giving us the lowdown on SADC and certainly how the Southern African Development Community has handled this very divisive and polarizing issue of Zimbabwe. And we certainly would like to thank you for sharing with us today on Africa 360. That does indeed bring us to the end of this edition of your program. If you'd like to leave a comment or join the debate on Africa, you can find us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter or drop us an email on africa360@enca.com. And remember, you're welcome to give us suggestions on topics you would like us to cover in upcoming editions of your program. So until next time, when you look forward to bringing you Africa like you've never seen it before, do take care. Thank you.